The sun was setting over the bustling streets of Astoria, casting long shadows across the neighborhood where the Bunker family resided. It was a place where tradition clashed with progress, and where every day brought a new opportunity for lively debate. Inside the household, Archie Bunker, a man of firm convictions and a traditional outlook, was preparing for another day of navigating a world that seemed to be changing far too quickly for his liking. His devoted wife, Edith, possessed a heart of pure gold and a unique way of looking at the world, often finding joy in the simplest of things, even when surrounded by chaos. The journey began on a momentous day at the local hospital where the family was gathered in a state of high anxiety and expectation. Gloria, the beloved daughter of Archie and Edith, was about to bring a new life into the world. Her husband, Mike, whom Archie affectionately referred to as the meathead due to his modern ideas and academic pursuits, was by her side attempting to offer comfort and guidance. The hospital corridors were a maze of activity, filled with doctors, nurses, and anxious families. At the reception desk, a nurse named Dorothy Winslow was deeply engaged in a personal telephone conversation, pouring her heart out to a doctor named Sam about her sister Bernice, who had apparently committed the grave offense of rearranging all the furniture in their house. Edith stood nearby, her face a portrait of worry and hope, waiting for a break in the conversation so she could ask about her daughter. When Edith finally managed to speak, she politely asked for the room number of Gloria Stivic. The nurse, distracted by her own domestic dramas, checked her records and declared that there was no such person registered. Edith was thrown into a state of panic, insisting that her daughter must be there. She explained that Mike had called from a nearby Italian restaurant to say they were at the hospital. Just as the confusion reached its peak, Archie burst through the hospital doors, looking like a character from a theatrical production. He was wearing dramatic makeup from a local lodge performance, complete with dark paint on his face, which only added to the absurdity of the situation. Archie was out of breath and thoroughly irritated. He complained loudly about the parking lot being completely full, forcing him to park blocks away and run all the way to the entrance while being chased by a dog and having sticks thrown at him by local children. Upon learning that Gloria was not in the system, Archie decided to take charge. He demanded to know what was happening, confronting the nurse with his usual bluster. After much back and forth and some creative pronunciation, they discovered that the doctor, Dr. Seymour Shapiro, had made the reservation under the slightly incorrect name of Gloria Stifford. Meanwhile, in the labor room, Gloria and Mike were enduring the long and exhausting process of childbirth. Mike was trying his best to keep Gloria's spirits up, suggesting they play 20 questions to pass the time. Gloria, in the grip of a strong contraction, asked why he had done this to her, to which Mike playfully replied that they had simply gotten tired of playing 20 questions one night. They timed the contractions, which were coming closer and closer together, signaling that the big moment was near. In the waiting room, Edith was dealing with her nervous energy by eating fried chicken from a paper bag. Archie watched her in disbelief, wondering how she could eat at such a stressful time. Edith explained that her worry made her hungry, whereas Archie felt completely unable to consume anything. Soon, Barney from the lodge arrived, still dressed in his performance attire, to offer his support. The moment of birth arrived with a flurry of activity. In the delivery room, Gloria made her final efforts, and with Mike cheering her on, she gave birth to a healthy baby boy named Joey. The news was delivered to Archie and Edith, who were filled with overwhelming joy. Archie declared that he never thought Mike had it in him, but his pride as a new grandfather was unmistakable. A few weeks passed, and the young family was adjusting to the daily routines and challenges of caring for a newborn. It was New Year's Eve, a night of celebration and new beginnings. Mike and Gloria were preparing to attend the wedding of their close friends, Al and Trudy. A debate was taking place in the kitchen regarding the perfect wedding gift. Mike had purchased a Japanese hibachi, believing it to be a unique and modern present. Gloria, however, felt that a standard coffee percolator would have been much more practical. She expressed her frustration that Mike had made this decision without consulting her, highlighting her desire for an equal partnership in their marriage where both brains were respected. Elle and Trudy arrived at the house, bubbling with excitement. They were a quirky couple, perfectly matched in their eccentricities. They expressed their joy at seeing the baby and chatted about their future. However, their plans were suddenly put in jeopardy when the babysitter, Mrs. Henshaw, arrived with disappointing news. She explained that she could not babysit that night because her 34-year-old son, Larry, was feeling deeply depressed about being single on New Year's Eve. She felt it was her duty as a mother to take him out and show him a good time. With the wedding scheduled to take place very soon and no other babysitter available, Al suggested a creative solution. He proposed that they hold the wedding ceremony right there in Mike and Gloria's living room. Trudy agreed enthusiastically, and they rushed out to gather the guests and the minister. As they prepared the room, Mike and Gloria found themselves in another argument. Gloria felt overwhelmed by the sudden turn of events, accusing Mike of always making decisions for her and treating her like a dumb blonde. Mike protested, claiming he had the highest respect for her intellect. To prove his point, they agreed to a temporary truce for the sake of their friends. The guests arrived, including a replacement minister who had been found at the last minute in the Yellow Pages. Mrs. Henshaw also returned, explaining that her son Larry had been invited to a party and had stood her up. The ceremony began, and Mike was asked to read an inspirational quote about marriage. Gloria had secretly replaced his original text with a poem about the importance of independence in a relationship. Mike read the words, which described how the oak tree and the cypress do not grow in each other's shadow. The message resonated deeply with both couples, and Al and Trudy were happily pronounced husband and wife just as the clock struck midnight. The adventure of parenthood continued to provide endless amusement for the household. On a night when Edith had gone out of town to care for a sick relative, Mike and Gloria had planned their first date night since the birth of the baby. They had hired a young college student named Sharon to babysit Joey. Archie was immediately skeptical of the young woman, questioning her age, her experience, and her choice of reading material, which happened to be a textbook about anthropology. When Sharon's boyfriend David arrived to study with her, Archie's suspicions reached a boiling point. He could not tolerate the idea of two teenagers studying anthropology in the presence of his grandson. After a brief and comical confrontation about smoking and music, Archie convinced the young couple to leave, deciding that he would babysit Joey himself. This decision proved to be much more challenging than Archie had anticipated. He was also hosting a weekly poker game with his neighborhood friends in his own house. Archie found himself constantly running back and forth between the two houses, trying to keep an eye on the baby while playing cards. His friends, including Kelsey, Tiny, and Schwartz, grew increasingly annoyed by Archie's constant interruptions. Archie insisted that they keep their voices down and stop smoking, fearing they would wake the child. Eventually, Joey began to cry. Archie tried to ignore it, repeating the theory that picking up a crying baby only spoils them. However, his friends urged him to take action, suggesting various solutions, from feeding the baby beer to checking his diaper. Archie reluctantly brought the baby over to the poker table and attempted to change the diaper. He struggled with the tape and the powder, complaining loudly about modern methods of parenting. After a messy and chaotic effort, Archie managed to get a clean diaper on the baby. To soothe the child, Archie decided to sing a lullaby and tell him a bedtime story. The story was a highly distorted version of classic fairy tales, blending Goldilocks, the three little bears, and the three little pigs into a single narrative involving a wolf with bad breath who eventually went to work for Walt Disney. The baby finally fell asleep, and when Mike and Gloria returned, they were amazed to find Archie holding a peacefully sleeping Joey. The final chapter of this family chronicle involved Archie's desire to escape the daily grind and become a wealthy man. He had met a watchmaker named Mr. Bernstein, who claimed to have invented a revolutionary device, a wireless remote-controlled doorbell ringer. Archie was so convinced of the potential of this invention that he decided to invest $1,000 of their savings, which represented a significant portion of their wealth. Edith was deeply upset when she discovered this, arguing that they could not afford to gamble their savings on an unproven concept. Archie, however, was determined to pursue his dream. He invited Mr. Bernstein over for a special dinner to discuss their partnership. Mr. Bernstein was a gentle and polite older man, but he was also plagued by various health complaints and had a habit of taking pills. During dinner, Archie proudly demonstrated the prototype of the device. He pressed the button on the remote control and the doorbell rang. It seemed like a miracle of modern technology, and Archie was filled with excitement about their impending wealth. However, the celebration was cut short when a neighbor called to complain that their own doorbell was also ringing. It soon became clear that the device was transmitting a signal that triggered every doorbell on the entire block. Mr. Bernstein was devastated by this technical flaw, realizing that the device needed more work, and offering to return Archie's money. As he tried to explain the situation, he began to feel unwell. Archie insisted that he sit in the comfortable living room chair and rest. Despite his disappointment, Archie showed a rare moment of kindness, comforting the old man and telling him they would fix the device together. The doctor was called, But before he could arrive, Mr. Bernstein peacefully passed away in the chair. Archie and Edith were left to reflect on the fragility of life and the true value of their family. Although the dream of becoming millionaires had faded, they realized that they already possessed the greatest wealth in their love for each other and the simple joys of their daily lives.